In today's video, I'm going to take you through the strategy, the tactic on how to present your service as an online trainer, online coach, and be able to charge high ticket prices between, $1,500 up to $5,000. Even we've got some clients charging up to $7K for 12-week packages, and how you can communicate it to a prospect and make them realize it is cheap in comparison to what they're currently doing. Now, the common issue I see with trainers is when they hear that they should be charging this sort of prices, they're like, oh, it sounds too expensive. Or when they speak to prospects, they aren't able to close the prospects because the prospects feel that the value they're gonna get is not worth that much money. Now, the easiest way to communicate is kind of like for like, apples to apples, right? Now, the amount of times I speak to trainers and when I say, oh, you should be charging $1,500, $2K, $3K for 12 weeks, they're like, oh, it sounds expensive. But then when you break it down this specific way, which I'm about to show you, you'll realize not only one, internally yourself, be absolutely committed to be able to charge those prices and having absolute belief in it, but two, being able to communicate that to a prospect so that they actually see that it's cheaper than what they've potentially been doing, and it is an easy sell. Right now, the most simplest way to communicate is as an online trainer, you're effectively selling a result rather than time, right? So you're not, for example, getting paid $50 to $100 for an hour session. When you're doing that, you're effectively setting yourself up so that it is like you're selling your time, the 1 hour. Now, if you work with them for 50 minutes or you work with them 58 minutes, they're gonna feel like, oh, I paid for 60 minutes and I missed out on those 2 last minutes, right? So they're so hung up on the time they're buying rather than the result. As an online trainer, when you're pitching things, you wanna be pitching everything as the result over that time frame. So it's like, all right, cool, we're gonna work together for 12 weeks, you're gonna get this result, I'm gonna get you that result, so on and so forth. So first and foremost, it is the way you promote the service or pitch your service in terms of the result rather than the time. Now, that's all good and done. And the reason why I started that's the most important piece. If you're not doing that, you must transition doing this to doing that format. Now, secondary to that, when you get to a price point, right? One, say this to yourself, and so that way you have absolute belief. So when you communicate it, that belief will transfer over to your prospect and you'll get more closes. But two, if you ever get a prospect that says, oh, that sounds a bit expensive, you can break it down in this way and that'll flip their mind completely so that they realize that it's actually really, really cheap. Now, ultimately, when I speak to trainers and they're like, oh, $1,500 sounds expensive, $2,000 sounds expensive, I break it down this way. I say, okay, cool. So as an in-person trainer, how much do you currently charge? And they might say, $50 for a 45-minute session, right? For example, there's some parts of Australia, other countries that can charge anywhere up to on the high end, $100 and something for a 45 or an hour session. Now, in some parts of the world, the country, you've got lower affluent areas that are charging, $50 for an hour session. Now, I'm going to pick somewhere halfway between that just to show the math, and then you can relate this to what you charge. So let's just say, for example, I'm speaking to a trainer, I say, so how much do you charge per 1 hour session? They say, oh, I charge $50, right? I charge $70. Let's make it easy for an hour. All right, cool. Now, if a prospect was to walk into the gym today with you, walk in and say, hey, I want to lose 10 kilos and I want to do that the next 12 weeks. How often would you say to that prospect they need to see you in person at least to start to see a result? How many times per week would they need to see you in person to do a 1 hour session? Right now, the absolute minimum, right, if you're actually truthful to the client or the prospect, you'd be like, look, you probably need to see me at least 3 times a week, right? So 3 1 hour sessions per week, right? At minimum, might even be 4 or 5 times a week for them to actually lose the weight and move forward. Now, if they're coming and seeing you once a week, twice a week, right, and that's the only movement they're doing, they're not really going to see much of a result, right? So in most cases, 3 times kind of like your minimum, 5 times the upper end, but let's look at 3 times for ease, right? So for that person to come into the gym and do a one-on-one in-person session with you, and you charge $75, let's do it for ease of math, $70 per session, and they need to see you a minimum of 3 times. How much does that work out per week? 70, 140, $210 a week, right? Just to come in and work out with you for 3 hours, 3 1-hour blocks over a week, right? And maybe, some clients might want to do 4 or 5, so even more. That's $210 on a mid-level per hour charging structure that client would pay. Now, if in the online world, if you're charging, say, $1,500 for a 12-week package, right, for the lack of math off the top of my head right now, it's somewhere above $100. $100 would be $1,200 over 12 weeks. So let's call it 110, 120 times 12 weeks would be 1,500 is there or thereabouts. I'm just making it up. Don't quote me on the math, right? So to see someone 3 times a week for an hour to train, they come in, they clock on, they do the reps, they do the workout, they walk out the door, they don't get to see the trainer again, they don't get, what happens in between all those times, what are they eating, what are they doing, what is this, so on and so forth, right? They're gonna pay $210 for that. As an online trainer, you can give them a program, a package, accountability check-ins, you can give them, nutrition, guidance. They could have a workout plan that they could do each day, or walking, or whatever it might be that it suited them to suiting their goals. They would also have the accountability. They would also have, potentially, if you did this as an online trainer, what to eat, what not to eat, so that they're able to fast track their results and get better results. Now, think to yourself, which client would get the better result out of the two? The one that sees a personal trainer for 3 60-minute sessions, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, clocks in, clocks out, who knows what they do in between the sessions, what they eat between the sessions, they're paying $210 a week, or the one that gets like an eating plan, check-ins, accountability, workout program that they can do, whether that's like in gym, at home, whatever it might be, and it's only costing like $110, $120 a week, right? One's a more holistic service that's actually going to get a better result. The other one's very minute in terms of what it actually does with the client. And the online trainer is effectively half the weekly price, right? Now, forget if the person wants to go see the trainer 4 or 5 times a week, right? Way more expensive. So as you can see, $1,500, even up to $2,000 for 12 weeks as an online trainer, you can generally deliver a better service because you can help the person, not just during the sessions, but all the stuff in between that's going to fast track their getting a result. And it's actually cheaper than what it would cost them to see an in-person trainer and get, a third of the service, the help, and the result. So it's very easy once you break it down in that way to go, yeah, it's actually cheap. Have absolute confidence in pitching at those prices yourself, because you're comparing to something you're already doing, right? If you're an in-person trainer, right? And you're just relating apples to apples, and you're seeing which is the best value for the client, for the prospect. And once again, it's going to give you confidence in your pitching. And if you ever have a prospect that says, I don't know about that price, you can break it down that way. And it's so logical for them to go, yeah, I'm getting effectively more. I'm going to get a better result. And it's actually cheaper. And that's why online training is growing so much. And that's why there are so many people moving away from an in-person trainer to a more holistic service that allows them to get better results and effectively can turn out cheaper, but at the same time allow the online trainer to have massive leverage, earn great amount, and not be selling their time for money. So hopefully this tip gives you the confidence to be able to charge what you're worth as an online trainer. And if you ever run into this objection for a prospect, it allows you to break that down, move through that objection, and bring them on as a client and change their life. Cheers.